Today we're going to take a closer look at the semiconductor industry. More importantly, two topics kind of circulating the internet right now. The first one deals with your favorite semiconductor company, Intel, and we can see this is a stock at its 5-year low. I think that is insane, and it has to deal with Intel's upcoming data center solutions and how it might not be that competitive compared to AMD. The second article is the one I'm actually going to start off with, and it's more regulations hitting semiconductor companies. So let's get started.
I do want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and make sure to check out fool.com/Jose to get the top 10 stocks to buy right now.
So there are reports online that United States firms will need to apply for a license to export chip making equipment to Chinese factories that produce advanced semiconductors with sub 14 nanometer processors. Reuters has reported that 3 companies, Clack Corporation, Lam Research Group, and Applied Materials Inc. have already been notified of the rule changes. We can see the semiconductor market has definitely taken quite a hit. Clack Corp is down roughly 5.7% in the past 5 days. Lam Research down roughly 7.7%. Applied Materials down roughly 6.7%. And again, I don't believe the overall market right now is down on just that individual news, but it is down on the overall fear that more regulations will come. We can see Nvidia down 9%, and it is sitting really close to that 52-week low. I mean, this is not the first time in the past few weeks that we heard something like this happen. Obviously, we kind of saw this report on August 26 when Nvidia reported that the United States government was kind of creating some regulations on some of their products. And I did do a video on that where I also kind of described that I do believe one of the big risks in the semiconductor market right now is just the overall fear that more regulations like this will come. I do want to say before we go any further that usually these kinds of regulations are for a very niche product or for a very niche sector. So even though obviously if it does continue and if it does happen, it might affect these companies' revenue to some extent, I do believe it's going to be minimal. And I do want to say there's not many players in China that are producing sub 16 nanometer to scale, right? The top leaders right now are definitely TSM in Taiwan, and we also have Samsung in Korea. So we can see it definitely would affect the revenues, but not something that would kind of create, I want to say, too much fear. The biggest fear is that, hey, these regulations get a lot tougher and it starts to hit more of the legacy and the bigger chips, and that's where some of the risk is coming from. I do want to say it's pretty crazy how Nvidia is now down to $129. Obviously, I'm a huge investor of Nvidia, but I don't follow stock prices too often, especially if there is no really recent news on the company. So it is pretty insane that in the past 5 days it is down roughly 9%. This is one of my biggest holdings, and even though it's one of my biggest holdings and the stock price is down a nice amount, I'm still super bullish in this company and believe in the next 5 years this is going to be a great investment for me. And if you are enjoying the episode so far, make sure to hit the thumbs up as it does help me grow my overall audience. If you want to support a little bit more, make sure to subscribe using my link at fool.com/Jose. Finally, if you want to learn more about the semiconductor market, make sure to subscribe to my newsletter. The link is down below, and that should be coming out soon. All right, the second topic I want to take a closer look at is one that deals with Intel Corporation. And earlier this week, there are reports in Tom's Hardware, and this has to deal with an article posted a few days ago about Intel and their upcoming data center solution, which is going to be Sapphire Rapids. The report mentions that there are leaked benchmarks for the engineering samples of Intel Sapphire Rapids, and they do fall behind EPYC CPUs. The 3rd generation CPU that's kind of outpacing this engineering sample is the Milan X, which is the updated version of AMD's 3rd generation CPU, which was released on March 21st of this year. And it was the first data center processor featuring 3D V-Cache on it. So I do believe this bodes really well for AMD investors, and I do believe that AMD is going to continue to grab market share in the data center market, at least for the next few years. And actually, Intel believes the same thing. I've done a video before explaining that Intel believes that while they will lose market share in the upcoming years, they will still grow revenue in that segment. And I don't own Intel, but I obviously have to see kind of the other side of this. When you are creating some form of CPU or when you are creating some form of chip design, it takes numerous years for the kind of design to and the methodology used to kind of be produced. So this Sapphire Rapids, it's something that most likely started in production and started in testing about about maybe 4 years ago. So I know Intel has a new CEO, and some people might blame the new CEO for this failure, but again, this is kind of technology that has started to been produced many years ago. And that's why Intel CEO believes that it's gonna take some time before Intel actually gets back to being the leader. And that's because new methodology for creating CPUs and these processors have been implemented, but it usually takes about 4 to 5 years for that to kind of really show in their products. So unfortunately, it might seem like Intel CEO is not doing a great job, but I do want to say, even though I'm not a bull on Intel, that it's really not the fault of leadership at the moment. It's more of just how crazy and how long it takes for technology to kind of shift into some form of new methodology. At the end of the day, I'm super excited as an AMD shareholder regardless, because even though in the upcoming years where Intel might be a little bit more competitive, I do believe AMD will continue to be a strong player in this space. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Take care, have a good day, and see you next time.